What's up, fam? Just Ramon here. I know you heard the saying, don't hate the player, hate the game. Well, there ain't no game like the game of politics. Growing up in the hood, I have no idea what politics was. We never thought about politics at all. Like I don't remember nobody in my neighborhood talking about politics. I don't remember my mom or my dad talking about politics. Um, it, Politics wasn't an issue growing up. We didn't think about politics. I think the first time I really started paying attention to politics as an entity or as a thing was maybe in my high school about when we started learning about the different branches of government. And when I knew that the first month we got food stamps and my mom got a check and we got food, that's when they had I think it's called WIC, but they used to pass out food. The criminal justice system, as far as the police were like, they weren't there to help. That's what we knew. Like we didn't ever call the police for help. Only time the police showed up is if they was looking for somebody that had got in trouble, or somebody had already did something and they was already there. They was like, we didn't look for the police. Like when they showed up, it was a problem. Most of the time we ran from the police, like even just on GP, just because. So I didn't really have a notion of what the political system was like. I didn't know anything about the criminal justice system. I didn't know anything about politics. Like I said, like my introduction to politics was pretty much in high school. I'm an inner city youth. I grew up in the hood, in the projects in Joy Park in Akron, Ohio. I was raised around a bunch of gangsters, hustlers, players, pushers, pimps, Macs. It was thugs and hookers. So my dad went to prison. I don't remember him going to prison. I just remember going to picnics and eating food. I never got in trouble as a juvenile, so I've never been I was a bad kid at home, but when it comes to committing crime and that type of stuff, I might have did some shoplifting from a store at the most. But I didn't really I wasn't out in the streets because my mama wouldn't let me be out in the streets, and I couldn't do nothing because my mama, everybody know Pat don't play. She gonna kick that butt. This is prior to me going to prison. This was the first time in my life that I was able to vote. And so I remember now, like Jesse Jackson ran for president, and everybody, all the black people then were like, "Hey man, vote for Jesse Jackson, vote for Jesse Jackson." And he was a black dude running for president, and we ain't never had a black president in the United States up until this point. And he had a nice little push behind him. And so when I got an opportunity to vote, and I was listening to Jesse Jackson, and I was listening to the Rainbow Coalition, and I was listening to him say, "Keep hope alive, keep hope alive." And I remember that, and that push for voting. And so when I went to vote for the first time when I was 18 years old, I voted for Jesse Jackson. And I remember that. And he lost. He lost terribly. You got to understand that when I graduated high school, I was going to the service. And all of my uncles had all been to the service. So I was going to the military, and that's a government entity in itself. And I wanted to be part of I wanted to defend my country, but I also wanted to travel and play with guns. That's where I started kind of paying attention to politics. I ended up getting arrested right after that situation. I think that summer I ended up getting arrested. When the incident happened where I got into a situation and I shot a guy, right? And I got arrested. My first interaction with the police, really first time that I got arrested, and they took me downtown and they asked me they showed me the weapons. Everybody had weapons, including them, and they showed me all the weapons. And when they asked me did I recognize the weapons, I was like, yeah, I recognize it. I said that's the gun that I shot the guy with. And he said, oh, so you admit to shooting him? I said, yeah. And he said, okay, you want to make a phone call? And I'm like, yeah, I got to call my mom, And they was like, yeah, because we're transporting you to the county jail for a felonious assault. And I was like, what? Me. And I was barely able to move. They had beat me so bad. The fact that, okay, I was the victim. but I am now the perpetrator, you know? And I'm like, wait a minute, this is like, it's twisted. How did it get twisted like that? I'm in the county jail. Um, my bond is huge, and like my mom's trying to get me out of jail, and I'm in there crying because I've never been in jail before, and they put me in solitary confinement because of my medical issue. I was beat up really bad, and I was like, whoa, I'm locked up. I'm really locked up, and I'm the victim. My mom was politically active to a degree. She, I knew she was a kind of like, I don't know if she was affiliated with the Black Panthers or she just knew some Black Panthers. She decides she brings me two books. The first book she brings me, one of them was the autobiography of Malcolm X. And the other one it was a question that asked the question, free at last. And it had a question mark at the end. And it was a real thick book. It had like 500 or 600 pages or something. It was real thick, but it was about the civil rights movement. And that is what opened my eyes to politics. And actually, that was the catalyst that started me to reading and learning about the criminal justice system and the civil rights movement and Black power and, just like what it meant to be, you know, just politically informed. You got Malcolm X speaking about Black rights. You got Martin Luther King speaking about Black rights, and but what Martin Luther King's speaking about civil rights, and Malcolm X is speaking about Black rights. And I'm getting all of this information in, and I'm also caught in this system where I'm seeing the majority of the inmates in here are all Black. But I really thought I was going to get out. It was a clear case of self-defense. My lawyer had told me, this is when I learned about lawyers too, man. Lawyers are pieces of crap. We hired the best attorney in town. They got me out on bond, and he was saying, "Oh yeah, this is a clear case of self-defense." This is great. You're self-defense all day. Like, yeah, this is self-defense. So he had me believing that I was going to get out of prison or get out of jail, or well, let me rephrase it. I had already got out of jail. They got me out of the county jail. They bonded me out, and now I'm pending trial. And my lawyer's, charging us by the hour. And he's telling us that we're going to beat this case. We're going to beat this case. We're going to beat this case. He comes to me, the first time he came to me, and he said, Ramon, they're offering you 5 to 25. 5 to 25 years. And I said, what? And he was like, well, they're making an offer and I have to bring it to you, and it's your decision. Do you want to take it or not? And I was like, no, I don't want to take a plea bargain for 5 to 25 years. And he was like, okay. So, a few months pass and he comes through and he says they said they'll give you 3 to 15. And I'm like, what? No. I said, man, don't come to me with no more deals. Like, this case is going to trial, man. Like you said, it was self-defense. I could beat it. And he says, yeah, I know. It's a little complicated, but we'll work it out. I never took the case to trial. I ended up taking a plea bargain. But this is how my lawyer presented it to me, and this was very eye-opening. So, the day of trial, this is the day that I'm getting ready to go to trial. We're getting ready to start trial, like pick the jury and all of that stuff. And we get there, and my lawyer comes to me and he goes, Ramon, he says, listen, this is what the prosecution is offering. They're going to throw the gun out of the case. And I was like, what do you mean throw the gun out of the case? They're just going to say like the gun was never there. And I was like, but I shot a guy. But he was like, just listen, Ramon. He's like, they're going to throw the gun out of the case. They're going to drop it from a 2nd-degree felony to a 4th-degree felony. And they're going to charge you with aggravated assault. But they're going to sentence you to 18 months to 5 years, but give you shock probation. And I was like, what is that? He said, all you're going to do is you're going to go get a number and go and come out on probation. And I was like, but I got to plead guilty. And he was like, yeah. And I said, but I'm not guilty. And he said, Ramon, He said, I'm just going to be honest with you. You're a black man. You shot a white man in a white town with a stolen gun. You're not going to get a jury of your peers. And you're facing 8 to 25 with a 3-year gun specification, meaning that you're going to do 3 years first before you do anything else. You're going to do 365-day years, and then you're going to start your 8 to 25-year sentence. And you're going to do a minimum of probably 6 to 7 years on that sentence before you even go in front of the parole board to determine if you're going to get out or not. So I was like, what? And so I remember looking at my mom and was like, what should I do? And she's like, you're a grown man. This is your decision to make. And then, he got me scared thinking that I'm getting ready to go to jail if I take this risk to go to trial, where I could just take this deal and get 5 years probation, essentially. Just say, yeah, I did it, just plead guilty to, because I did shooting. And it kind of makes sense. So I was like, you know what? I don't want to go and be in prison for the rest of my life for 8 years minimum. So I took the deal. None of it was for me. He did that. And see, now I know that the criminal defense lawyers, a lot of them, right? A good portion of them, they are in cahoots with the prosecution. So yeah, I know because if I know then what I know now, I would have took that case to trial. And just for the record, I was the only one that was charged. And everybody, now remember what I said, everybody had weapons. I just the only one that had I guess a quote unquote deadly weapon. But I shot the guy in self-defense, but they beat the crap out of me. Bad. I had 37 stitches in my lip, 18 stitches on one side of the back of my head, 12 stitches on the other side of the back of my head, 2 broken fingers and 3 broken ribs, and multiple bruises and abrasions and scratches. Yeah, I was beat up bad. Yeah, I'm fighting on 2 fronts. I'm fighting on multiple fronts, man. I'm fighting because now I'm a felon, and I can't. And the society is fighting me, and then I am, fighting with like myself, man, because I'm feeling like, am I a bad guy? Because I shot a guy and now I'm a felon, and it's the whole, like, I'm like, man, this is messed up. I was just really, really hurt, man, that I couldn't get a job. Really hurt, and I really wanted to. This is actually expectations versus reality. This is where it actually comes into play, because my expectations was I'm free. I'm out of prison. I'm cool. I'm just on this probation thing. That ain't nothing. Like, okay, it's cool, but I can go out here and do what I need to do, right? Get me a job, and I got me I remember I put my resume together. And it's crazy because people don't understand. Like, I had a high school diploma. And that is rare in prison. Like, you are a minority if you got a high school diploma. And I'm educated. I had a good job when I was in there. So when I was getting out, I knew I wanted to get a job. So I made up my resume. I typed up my resume and was like, yeah, I got this. And I had 100 copies of my resume printed out, and was looking for a job and passing out my resume. And I passed out all of my resumes. So then I would get the resume, and I would get the phone call. That's what I would get. I would get a phone call, and they would ask me if I could come in for an interview. And I was like, yeah, sure. And I'd come in for an interview, and then I would always leave the question, have you ever been convicted of a felony? Blank. But I promise you that every interview I went on, as soon as I mentioned that I was a felon, they said, no, we can't hire felons. We can't hire you. We're not going to hire you. And I mean, every single job. I went from, I was like, what the heck is happening? And at that time, I didn't think about like McDonald's or Burger King or, nothing like that. I was trying to get like real jobs, like, cause I had skills. I had computers. Well, I could type. I was familiar with computers, but it wasn't the computers as they were now. But I just knew about computers. I could, I could read. I got great communication skills. I can write. So I just every time that I went to an interview, they just dogged me, and I realized that now I'm like, wait a minute, like I'm kind of like an outcast. Like I can't do nothing. I was like, what? I was like, I'm trying to get a job, but everybody's looking at me as a threat because I'm now a felon, and it really kind of it hurt. I went to go get a job at Big Lots, and instead of saying yes, I've been convicted of a felony, I checked no. I remember that, and they hired me. They made me a cashier. And then I was working there for probably about 2, maybe 3 weeks. And then the manager said, "Hey, Ramon, we want to promote you to the manager of this layaway. We're going to do a layaway for furniture, man. We want you to run this department for us." And I was like, "Absolutely, man, I could do that." And they was getting ready to do it. And then my manager got promoted to a different region, or like he got promoted to a different region. We got a new manager, and the first thing the new manager did was run an audit. He was like, "Ramon, can I see you in my office?" And there were 2 police officers in the front of the store, and I didn't really pay no attention to it. I walked right by him, and when we walked into the office, he was like, "Let me have your apron and your badge." And then next thing I know, the police come in like behind me. They're like at the outside of the office, and I'm like, "What?" And he was like, "You lied on your application." And I said, "About what?" And he was like, "About being a felon. You're a convicted felon." I said, "But Mark knew about that." I had told, because I ended up coming clean to Mark when they promoted me. That's the thing. When they said they wanted to promote me, I told Mark, I said, "Man, I got something I got to tell you, man." He was like, "What?" I said, "Man, I lied on my application about being a felon." He said, "So no problem. We'll fix that." And so he got promoted the next day. That was when he left. And then we got the new manager and they ran that. And so now here I am in the office with the police at the door, and the new manager asked me for my credentials. And he was like, "I need you to vacate the property." And he had the police escort me off the property. And right then and there, I knew that this was, excuse my language, bullshit. I was like, okay, like this is how y'all gonna play. Y'all ain't gonna play fair. All right. So I turned to the streets. Crack was booming, and I started selling crack. And I was like, excuse my language, F the police. That's where I was at. F the police. You gonna like, you won't let me be legit. I'm gonna be a criminal. Hey, I gotta say it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification button. You already know. You already know, man. Don't forget, God loves you. So do I. Peace. One love.